This is National Native News. I'm Brian Bull, sitting in for Antonia Gonzalez. Native American tribes are advising members to carry paper documentation as they travel to avoid being caught up in ICE raids of immigrants. Since President Trump's push to arrest and deport undocumented immigrants began with his second term, reports of Native people being confronted about their citizenship status by ICE agents have been happening all across Indian country. This week, the Torres Martinez Desert Cahuilla Indians of Southern California issued notice to their members to carry a state-issued driver's license, a certificate of degree of Indian blood, and a tribal ID card as their primary documents. Passports, Social Security cards, military IDs, and birth certificates are also recommended. The tribe says all Native Americans are U.S. citizens and therefore not subject to being deported, but having documentation can avoid wrongful detention and harassment. A controversial measure in the province of Ontario was recently passed into law. It gives the cabinet of the government of Premier Doug Ford the power to create special economic zones where certain resource projects could be exempt from provincial laws. As Dan Karpinchuk reports, the bill passed, even though there was widespread opposition from lawmakers, environmentalists, and Indigenous groups.
Ontario Premier Doug Ford says Bill 5 was urgently needed in the face of the trade war started by U.S. President Donald Trump. It's also called the Protect Ontario by Unleashing Our Economy Act. It would speed up the process for allowing major infrastructure and resource projects, such as critical mineral extraction, and make Ontario one of the world's fastest regimes to approve permits. Even though there was widespread opposition, Ford's government has a majority in the Ontario legislature, and the law was passed quickly. Among those to speak against the new law was Linda DeBasagi, a Grand Chief of the Anishinaabe First Nation.
We are disappointed and very concerned that Ontario has proceeded in a way it has without any meaningful consultation, engagement, and accommodation to our First Nations. Bill 5 can be viewed as circumventing protections that are seen as impediments or obstacles to development and furthering the colonial regimes of old and a continued disregard for the treaty relationship. I caution you not to sell out our First Nation rights, heritage, and history in your frenzied attempt to appease the U.S. President, unleash our natural resources, and establish a foothold in the global economy.
Ontario's Minister of Indigenous Affairs says there will be consultations with Indigenous groups after Bill 5 has passed. That hasn't happened yet. Other Native leaders say those talks should have taken place before the legislation was developed, not after. The question now is how soon the Ford government will act to designate any location in the province a special economic zone. For National Native News, I'm Dan Karpinchuk.
Last week, the Salt River Pima Maricopa Indian community hosted the Arizona Diamondbacks' annual baseball-softball competition for Native American youth. This summertime tradition, known as the D-Backs Intertribal Tournament, is now in its 25th year. KJZZ's Gabriel Pietrorazio has this report.
Rising tribal players from near and far shine while competing in the intertribal tourney under the bright lights at Talking Stick Resort's Salt River Fields. This year has grown to 75 teams, about 1,100 Indigenous youth, representing more than 20 tribes from all over Arizona, California, Oklahoma, and New Mexico. 4 days, 3 divisions, 103 games in all. Oklahoma's Tribe Gad Warriors won 4-2 over AZ Heat in the Thursday night AAA Finals, scoring its second consecutive championship. For National Native News, I'm Gabriel Pietrorazio reporting from Salt River Fields.
And I'm Brian Bull for National Native News.
National Native News is produced by Kawanak Broadcast Corporation with funding by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting.
Support by Sonosky Chambers Law, championing tribal sovereignty and Native American rights since 1976. From opioids litigation to treaty rights to tribal self-governance. With offices in Washington, D.C., New Mexico, California, and Alaska. Sonosky Chambers Law.
Skugtash. For more than 40 years, Ramona Farms has revived ancient traditional foods, tepary beans, pinoli, polentas, and more, all from store.ramonafarms.com. Ramona Farms supports this show. Omnye.
Native Voice One, the Native American Radio Network.